Welcome back to Goal Line Stuff, the show where we talk about anything and everything football related. I'm Alex Kurkiv.
And I'm Michael San Antonio. And boy, do we have a show for you today. It's the playoffs. I'm so excited. A lot of great matchups looking forward. A lot's happened in the last week. And we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about the coaches that have been fired. We're going to talk about some of the craziest games that we've seen this season that happened in week 18. And then we're going to go through an in-depth view of our playoff predictions. Both of us are going to debate, analyze, just go through everything and talk about who we think is going to win the Super Bowl. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for this episode. I know that we have very different opinions on a lot of these teams. So I'm I'm excited to debate you, Alex. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
I am always excited to debate you, like every single week.
Yeah, it's the best part of the episodes, in my opinion. But yeah, first, I think we should just, get into some of the coaches that were fired. We did an episode a couple weeks ago where we talked about coaches who were on the hot seat, and we pretty much hit pretty much every coach. I don't want to sound, cocky or anything, but we did a good job. Yeah, we're the best. We're the best. We did a good job on that episode. The coaches that were fired this week: Judge, Zimmer, Nagy, Fangio, Flores, and Coley. And we predicted pretty much all of those besides Flores and Coley. And yeah, I'm honestly not too surprised with any of the list of the coaches that were fired, but a lot of people have been pretty, upset about the Flores firing and also the Coley firing. A lot of people have been questioning that one. So you want to talk a little bit about that, those two firings, Alex, and your opinions on them?
The Brian Flores firing, to me, it's surprising in the sense that he's a winning coach and he led them to back-to-back winning seasons. But when you hear all the circumstances that kind of surround the firing, it does make sense to you because he was saying some ridiculous things to his players. Allegedly, there's a rumor that says he told Tua Tagovailoa to his face that he should have drafted Mac Jones this year. He was fighting with the front office. He was trying to promote mediocre and lackluster assistant coaches. Kind of like it gives me the same vibes that the Doug Peterson firing did last year. There was a clash with the front office. He couldn't get anyone outside to work from him, so he kept promoting people, incompetent people, and the offense just wasn't working. Even though he's a defensive guy, he didn't manage a good staff. So it doesn't really come as a surprise thinking about it in the grand scheme of things. And with David Culley, to me, I think that's another one that you could kind of see coming. He didn't really seem like a head coach to begin with. And it just seemed like the Texans were such a disaster last offseason that no head coach wanted to work for them. So David Culley kind of just went there, and it felt like maybe if he could right the ship a little, make them seem competent, which I'd say he did, that they would get rid of him and then hire like a really good head coach, what would now be this offseason.
Yeah, you make some valid points there. For Flores, a lot of people, like you said, he's a winning coach. A lot of people were surprised because, he's a great defensive mind. He knows what he's talking about. Like you said, they've won the last two seasons. They've had winning records the last two seasons. But, in my opinion, I think they've been a little underwhelming in those 2 years. They were a really bad team when Flores came, and he definitely has helped, bring them up a little bit. But they've gotten a lot of weapons. They've gotten a lot of good players in the draft. And they've gotten so close to making the playoffs 2 years in a row. It's just very disappointing endings for, both of those, the 2020 and the 2021 season, and all that extra stuff that happened with, him and Tua. I think it's a warranted firing for the Miami Dolphins. And I think he'll definitely get picked up somewhere else, but that's just my opinion. And
the front runner in Houston right now.
Yeah. And I think that may be a good fit, honestly, for Houston. He's a great coach. He's not a top 10 coach, but he's a good coach.
I don't know about great. He's good. And
I take that. He's a good coach
too.
He's a good coach. Yeah. And he would be a great defensive coordinator. But for Coley, he didn't quite have the resume that I think you need as, a head coach. He had a good season, definitely better than Bill O'Brien. Definitely. There's no question about that. But at the end of the day, he's not the guy who's going to bring the Texans to that next level that they're trying to get to. And, I think the firing's a good move, honestly. I don't think they should keep him long term. So, but that's all I really have about that. And yeah, we just wanted to talk quickly about those firings, some big news in the NFL, and some other stuff that happened in Week 18. Let's get into that. There were some good games. As we said last week, if you listened, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do if the Colts lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Boy, did they lose.
Oh, my gosh. They
Boy,
didn't just
they
lose. Trevor Lawrence actually looks like the first overall pick for the first time this season. So, I mean, good for Jacksonville, I guess. But if you're a Colts fan, I don't know how you're feeling right now. Oh, Carson Wentz was awful. he was awful. And, you know, I mean, I think he had a pretty good year, but he needed to play well in these last two games, and he choked. They needed to win those last two games, and they didn't. I mean, those are two games the Colts should have won. They just completely just had a meltdown, and it's just ugly. It's just ugly.
This game is my nirvana. I cannot explain to you how happy I was watching that game. Not only because it's funny to see the Colts lose like that to the Jaguars, who are 2-14, but also because Carson Wentz is their quarterback. You know, I'm a little bit of a homer here. Not a big Carson Wentz guy personally. But seeing him fold the way he did in those last two games, and like he was all right the whole season. He wasn't anything special, but seeing him fold like that at the end was bliss to me. And
yeah,
Carson Wentz, I mean, he's a guy that you would like to have as your quarterback, maybe for the like middle part of the season, but you kind of want a backup there that can maybe come in clutch and win you some games at the end of the season, because Carson Wentz throughout his whole career has proven that in the biggest moments, he cracks under pressure. And so seeing the 9-7 Colts lose to the 2-14 Jaguars when their season needed it most, when it mattered most, is by far the funniest thing. No, I can't say that because of what Antonio Brown did, but it's so funny to see that happen. They had a 93% playoff chance with 2 weeks left in the season, and they missed the playoffs. It's the 2-14 Jaguars. They have the number one pick. That's your must-win game, and you lose to them. Thank you, Carson Wentz, for providing this entertainment and giving the Eagles a higher draft pick. I am done with this game. I love it.
Yeah, I was pretty happy too. I mean, I was kind of like losing my mind because of all the possibilities of what could happen with the playoffs. Once I realized that the Colts were actually going to lose the game, you know, I think everybody thought the Jaguars were going to get demolished, but it didn't happen. And so that opened up, you know, a spot for the Steelers to slip in.
I told you should have picked the Jags last week. I'm on record as saying that. I said I would have picked.
You are, and I guess I should have. I guess I should have. But, you know, ultimately, the Jaguars winning that game opened up a spot for another team, and the Steelers got in. And the Steelers are not a good team. I just want to come out and say that. The Steelers are not a good team.
The Colts would have put up a much better fight.
Yeah, so as happy as I am that the Colts lost to the Jaguars and that everything went down as it did, you also have to look at it this way, that, you know, the AFC could be much more competitive right now in this playoff bracket if the Colts made it. You know, I think the Colts are honestly maybe the fourth or fifth best team in the AFC, in my opinion, when they're at their best. Nope. Yes. You know, you saw it in the middle of the season. I mean, they were beating the Patriots.
Their quarterback.
But they don't run off of Carson Wentz. They run off
him in the playoffs.
They run off of Jonathan Taylor in the defense.
You can't keep up with the Chiefs without
not the Chiefs,
passing the ball.
You can keep up with the Raiders. You can keep up with the Titans, in my opinion. The Bills, in my opinion. Bengals, in my opinion. I think the Colts are right around. What do you say? Sorry,
you're playing the Chiefs if you win that game.
I mean, yeah, the Chiefs are a different monster, but I'm just talking about the other teams around them. I think the Colts should be in the playoffs. So, you know, on one hand, it's funny seeing them lose. And yeah, Wentz choked. They're going to have to figure out what to do with Wentz. I mean, they're going to keep him, obviously, but
they can't do anything with him. He's theirs for the next year.
I know, but they're going to have to figure out ways to win with him. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, honestly. So that'll be interesting to see. I mean, Colts have the most all-pro players, or not all-pro, most Pro Bowl players this season. And it's crazy to think about. They didn't even make the playoffs with the most Pro Bowl players. So, yeah, the Colts are a disaster, at least, the beginning and the end of the season. They were great in the middle, but
the Colts are public enemy number one to the Eagles. Besides Dallas, Washington, and New York. They stole Frank Reich from us. They have Carson Wentz. So funny to see them lose. And we have their draft pick too. It's poetic.
It's great. It's great being an Eagles fan, seeing all that go down.
And we made the playoffs too.
Yeah, I don't know how, but we made the playoffs. So, but yeah, anyway though, but another thing with that Jacksonville win over the Colts, a scenario broke through, and that was that the Raiders and Chargers, if they ended up in a tie, both of them would make the playoffs. And so that was the only way that both of them could make the playoffs, with them playing each other week 18. And I think I speak for all fans when I say that we were rooting for that tie. We were all rooting for that tie, except for Steelers fans. And it really upsets me because, watching that game, Justin Herbert looked like the greatest quarterback of all time come like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He looked like the greatest quarterback of all time. On fourth down, he was 6 for 6. It's like it hasn't been done in like 30 years. Like, he was just slinging the ball into tight windows wherever he needed it, getting it right to Mike Williams in double coverage. He was doing whatever he wanted. And I'm kind of disappointed that the Chargers didn't at least make the playoffs, because I wanted to see Justin Herbert, Jay Herbo play against some of these other quarterbacks. Nothing against the Raiders. I wanted to see Justin Herbert in the playoffs. So I wanted to see the tie, but that was a great game. The Raiders definitely deserve to be in there. So I'm not going to, like I said, nothing against them. I just, wish the Colts or the Chargers made it in over the Steelers, because the Steelers are losing to the Chiefs. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
It was this close to happening.
Oh, it was
that close. But then the Chargers defense just couldn't come through. They couldn't stop Josh Jacobs. The Raiders were going to kneel it out, but they went for one last run, and Jacobs went for like 12 yards. So they got in field goal range and won the game. I was so upset. I was so mad when that happened, because the tie to get both in the playoffs would have been on par with the Colts losing in hilarity.
It would have been,
because the whole week people were joking about how they were going to tie. They were going to like kneel it out the entire game, so they tied and both got in. And it actually almost happened to where they tied and they would have both got in. And now we're stuck watching the Steelers get smoked in the playoffs. Little, sneak peek at that game. But I don't know. The excitement over it almost being a tie is almost as good as it actually being a tie.
Yeah.
Although I do agree with your point that it sucks to see Ben Roethlisberger instead of Justin Herbert in the playoffs.
It really does. And, just think, if Brandon Staley didn't call that last time out, maybe Justin Herbert would be in the playoffs right now. So, yeah, I do think Herbert will make the playoffs next year, the year after that. It'll happen. Just this year wasn't it. And, we'll have to see. Disappointing game for the Chargers, and disappointing, way to end the season for all the Chargers fans. But, I think that's all we really need to talk about for week 18. I think we should start getting into some of our playoff predictions. You want me to start, Alex? I could, start going through my bracket. Okay. So we already gave you a little sneak peek about that Chiefs-Steelers game. I'll start out with that one though. Going through, looking AFC side first. Wild card, Chiefs versus Steelers. This is a no-brainer in my opinion. The Chiefs are winning this one. They destroyed the Steelers the first time they played each other earlier this year. This is my only lock in the playoffs. The Chiefs are going to beat the Steelers. Next game, Raiders versus Bengals. This is crazy. I know I'm going to get, some hate for this, but I got the Raiders in this one.
I don't hate it. I don't.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We could get more in depth into that later, but I think the Raiders are a more consistent team. Ultimately, I think the Raiders are going to, stop Joe Burrow a little bit more than people think they will. I don't think the Bengals are going to, go into this game, playing the way that they did, those last 2 weeks before week 18. So yeah, I got the Raiders in that one. And then Patriots versus Bills. I think this is one of the closest games in all of the playoffs, but when it comes down to it, I'm taking the better quarterback here, and that's Josh Allen. Bill Belichick is a great coach. He's going to do everything he can to get the Patriots that win, but I think Josh Allen just can't be stopped, and he's much better than Mac Jones. It's going to come down to which quarterback's better, in my opinion. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Josh Allen's going to pass all over the Patriots and win by a score or two. So that's what I have in the wild card. Looking into the divisional round for the AFC, after my picks, the first seed Titans will be playing the fifth seed Raiders. And I like the Raiders, but not enough to beat the Titans. I've been pretty vocal that I think the Titans are, a little bit weaker than a lot of people think they are, but I can't see them losing to the fifth seed Raiders here. I think, Derrick Henry coming back, Julio healthy, AJ Brown potentially healthy. I think the Titans will win this one, pretty easily. And yeah, nothing more to say about that. Next game, Chiefs versus Bills. This is a repeat of the 2020 divisional round. Actually, not divisional round. That was the AFC Championship game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, AFC Championship game. And I have the same result in this one. I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs get it done. I don't think the Bills, when you look at both teams on paper, the Chiefs are just a better team overall. They're going to be able to, take advantage of the Bills' weaknesses. I think Patty will win this one by a score or two and move on to the AFC Championship game, which will be the Titans versus the Chiefs, in my opinion. And like I said, I don't think the Titans are that great. I think the Chiefs are actually going to destroy the Titans in this one. I think it'll be like 45 to 20 or something like that.
No.
I know that's bold, but I have the Chiefs winning that one. Before I get into anything more than that, I'm going to go to the NFC. Let's look at wild card in the NFC. I'll try to do this a little bit quicker so you could get to your picks, Alex. First game, Eagles versus Bucks. I may be a little biased as an Eagles fan, but I think this one's a lot closer than most people think it is. I got the Eagles in this one by a couple points.
Yeah,
I know that's a little crazy. It's a little crazy, but I have the Eagles in that one by a couple points. I think the Eagles are a better team than most people think they are. Just my opinion.
They're not, but
we'll see. We could get more in depth on that game a little bit later. Next game, Cardinals versus Rams. I have the Rams in this one. Going to be a very close game, but I just like Stafford and McVay over Kingsbury and Kyler. I don't think the Cardinals are that great of a team without D-Hop and JJ Watt being hurt. Just a lot of injuries. They've been 1-4 in their last 5 games. I don't think they get it done here versus the Rams in this wild card game. Next, Niners Cowboys, classic 90s matchup. Joe Montana, Troy Aikman. Unfortunately, we're not seeing Joe Montana and Troy Aikman. We're seeing Jimmy Garoppolo and Dak Prescott, but it'll still be a good game. And as much as I hate saying it, the Cowboys are going to win this game. I think they win this one by a touchdown or maybe 10 points. I think they're the better team on defense. They have Michael Parsons. I think Parsons is going to make a foolery out of Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going to line him up wherever they want. I don't think the Niners really are going to have an answer for that Cowboys defense. And I think the Cowboys are going to win that one. Divisional round with my picks, it sets up to be Packers versus Eagles and Cowboys versus Rams. Packers and Eagles, even as an Eagles fan, it's not close. Packers are going to win this one. Aaron Rodgers is likely the MVP. You've got so many good weapons on that Packers team. Jair Alexander is going to be back. The Packers are going to be unstoppable pretty much. And I don't think the Eagles even have a shot at winning that one. So I got the Packers in that one. And then Rams versus Cowboys, a little bit of a shocker. I got the Rams upsetting the Cowboys in that one.
Not an upset.
It is an upset. Rams are 4th seed, Cowboys are 3rd seed. Rams are going to upset the Cowboys. I think Stafford's going to just play better than Dak will. Just my opinion. We'll see what happens. And that sets up Rams versus Packers in the conference championship. Another upset. I know this is crazy. I got the Rams in this one. And, common logic tells me that I shouldn't pick the Rams, but I really like McVay. I think he's a better coach. I think he's maybe the best coach in this, besides Belichick, in the playoffs right now. So, that's part of my consideration for this pick. I also think it's just, the Rams are going to fight really hard. They want to win right now. So do the Packers. But I ultimately think this is going to be one of the most surprising upsets of the playoffs. And I think the Rams are going to make it to the Super Bowl. And that sets up Rams versus Chiefs. And I think the Chiefs win this one. That might not be the most, exciting pick, but I think Mahomes gets a second Super Bowl. I think Chiefs win by 10 points maybe and redeem themselves from what happened last year. So yeah, that's just a quick rundown of my playoff bracket. I know Alex, you're not happy with some of my picks, but I want to listen to some of your picks, and then we could get into some debate. We could talk about some matchups, more in depth, and do some more analysis. So yeah,
I'll tell you what, we have a very different bracket on the NFC side.
I know we do.
AFC though, AFC though, to keep up with your theme of starting with them, we're gonna go with Patriots versus Bills. The Patriots simply cannot keep up with the Bills offense, as we saw in their most recent one. The only reason the Patriots won the first game is because there was ridiculous winds and the Bills couldn't pass the ball in that weather. And that's not going to be the case this week. So the Bills, I think, will handily win the game against the Patriots. Next, we have the Raiders and Bengals. And once again, as we've said all season, you can't really trust the Bengals in any kind of game because you don't know which Bengals team is going to show up. The team that goes down by 3 scores in the first quarter, or the team that can pass for 500 yards and win by 3 scores. So I think I'm going to take the gamble and go with the latter of the two. And it's going to be another boom week for the Bengals, and they're going to beat the Raiders pretty decently. Another one that's going to be pretty easy. Like you said, it's your only lock. I'm going to go with you on that one and say the Chiefs are going to beat the Steelers by a whole lot of points, which it's not going to be fun to watch that tomorrow night. But next in the divisional, we have the Titans versus the Bengals, and I think ultimately the Titans are the more consistent team. I know I've been outspoken about how I don't like the Titans this year, and I think they're a weak team, but I'm rescinding everything that I've said all year. They just keep overcoming all the injuries, and they get back the best running back in the league and the engine of their offense in Derrick Henry. And I think the Bengals are in for a shock when they play the Titans. Next, we have Bills versus Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs are kind of just a better version of the Bills. And they play at home. Neither is like an elite running team. Both their running backs are kind of suspect, and Mahomes is over Josh Allen. Andy Reid is over Sean McDermott. So ultimately, I think that the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills, which brings us to the AFC Championship of the 1 seed versus the 2 seed in Titans versus Chiefs. And I don't know. You picked the Chiefs to win this one, but I have the Titans going all the way to the AFC to the Super Bowl, I should say. Derrick Henry is that much of a difference maker, and in the cold, you got to run the ball. So I think that with Derrick Henry back, and they'll have the Bengals game to kind of integrate him more, so then they'll be back to full speed in the AFC Championship game. I think that Tannehill is going to make enough plays. The defense is going to make enough plays to barely beat the Chiefs and make it to the Super Bowl.
Bold?
Not really. They're the 1 seed. And I mean, I didn't have a single upset the entire AFC. That is about to change, however, because in the NFC, we'll start with the Buccaneers versus the Eagles, the same way you did. And once again, I'm biased too. So I have the Eagles barely beating the Buccaneers, which is probably a really stupid pick in the grand scheme of things, because the Buccaneers are the defending champs and they have the greatest quarterback of all time. But the weather might be a little suspect in Tampa this week. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be windy. So that kind of gives the advantage to the Eagles, who are an excellent run team. And the Buccaneers might not be able to pass as much. And we don't know how healthy Leonard Fournette's going to be, even if he plays. And so ultimately, I think that the situation this game is in favors the Eagles, which gives them a fighting chance. And I'm going to go ahead and pick the underdog and go with the Eagles there. Next, we have 49ers at Cowboys. And hey, the Cowboys, they've been this explosive offense. They're putting up 50 points a game. They put up 50 multiple times against third stringers. So I just don't see it happening. Dallas, they seem like a team that's just going to blow up in the playoffs and completely collapse. And you guys know my opinion on the Niners. I've been high on the Niners all year. They beat the Rams last week to make it in the playoffs in an unbelievable last-minute drive. The Jimmy G to Debo connection is off the chain. And so I think the Niners are going to beat the Cowboys. I think they're better equipped for the playoffs than Dallas is. And then for the last wild card round, we have the Cardinals at the Rams, another team I've been outspoken on all year. I think the Rams are bound to fold in the playoffs because they have Matt Stafford as their quarterback. Matt Stafford did not perform so well in the Niners game this week. He tends to throw some boneheaded interceptions in the worst times, a la Carson Wentz, but obviously nowhere near the level of Carson Wentz choking wise. And I just don't think the Rams are built for big moments the way the playoffs are. And obviously Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury have no playoff experience, but I'm going to go with the unknown over what I feel is a known choker in Matt Stafford. So that's a bold pick because you have them going all the way to the Super Bowl. So me having them losing the wild card, that's a big contrast, but I just think that's what's going to happen. Next, we have the divisional round, Eagles Packers. That's probably the only other lock to me in the whole playoffs if it happens, because the Packers are just on another level of a team than the Eagles. The Eagles haven't beat a single team with a winning record all year, which makes it even dumber that I picked them to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's not even going to be close. Like, they are built to play in the cold with the run game and also having played in the cold all year. So maybe they keep it within 2 scores, but the Packers are going to win. Then I have the 49ers at the Cardinals. The 49ers tend to do well in the division. The Cardinals don't have the best track record in the division. Their divisional record this year is good, but I don't know that they have the mental fortitude to, win multiple playoff games in a row, especially with the end of the season they've had. So I'm going to have the Niners going all the way to the NFC Championship and not further than that. The Packers are going to blow them out. Well, no, maybe not blow them out. I think maybe 10 points is comfortable, but the Packers are going to win. The Packers are going to beat the Titans in the Super Bowl because they're the best team with the best quarterback, and even Derrick Henry is not going to be enough to conquer that. So the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl, as I've been saying since like week 5.
Okay, so those are our rapid fire. Just, very quickly us going through what our predictions are for the playoffs. Obviously, we have very different brackets. And I think that speaks to how, close a lot of these games are going to be. I mean, people don't really talk about it as much, but this year I think has been more exciting in that, most teams are in the middle range. Like, I don't think there's a clear number one team. Maybe the Packers are, but besides the Packers, the Chiefs have had some issues this year. The Titans have had injuries and some issues this year. Second seeds, third seeds, the Bucks have all these injuries now. So, it's a lot different this year in terms of playoff landscape. I think there could be a lot of upsets this year. So that, it could turn out that, both of our brackets are completely wrong. Who knows? But yeah,
it's bound to be completely wrong.
Yeah, but let's debate a little bit about the Tennessee Titans. I do have them in the AFC Championship game, but that's more so because I have them playing the Raiders in the divisional round, and I don't think the Raiders are a very good team. I'm just going to get that out there. I think the Raiders would lose to a majority of the teams in the playoffs in the divisional round if they played them. So I think it's more telling, in my opinion, it's more saying so that the Titans are going to be in that position because they're the 1 seed, because they get that easy matchup with the Raiders. I really don't see them making the Super Bowl. Like, I understand some points that you make, but let me just talk my part first, and then you can debate me. Derrick Henry's great. He's the best running back in football when he's healthy. He's their offense. Their offense revolves around Derrick Henry, but he's going to come back after, a bad foot injury. This is just me talking, but I think it may be likely that Henry won't be 100% coming back, first week.
That's where the bye is so crucial, though.
The bye is crucial, but I just want to say Foreman's been great.
He might have been able to come back week 18, but he didn't. So he got that week of rest. He gets another week of rest again with the bye. So I think they'll kind of bring him in a little slowly in the first playoff game if they can win easily. But if it's a close game, he'll be going full strength. And then by the time it's the AFC Championship game, he'll be back in full force.
I don't disagree with that. I think Foreman and Hilliard have done a great job at replacing him in his production. And I don't know if Derrick Henry will be full force 100. Like, he will be full force. They're going to give him the full workload as soon as he's healthy because he's a superstar. That's what superstars get in the playoffs. But, we saw him get shut down last year in the playoffs. There's some games where Derrick Henry gets shut down. It doesn't happen super often, but if Derrick Henry gets shut down, I don't think the Titans have any chance, even
I
getting
don't,
close to the Super Bowl.
I
And
don't think
so
there's any team with a dominant enough run defense to stop Derrick Henry.
I don't know. I mean, it really takes is, just focusing on him, stuffing him right at the line. The
You have AJ
Ravens,
Brown and Julio Jones.
that is true. Now that is one thing, that's one thing that I took into consideration when I thought Raiders versus Titans. But you really think that the Titans could beat the Chiefs at full
Oh, for
force?
sure. 100%.
I
Outside
don't
of
think so.
outside of the playoff game, the year the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, the Titans have beat the Chiefs every time in the last 5 years, which includes another playoff game. It includes the game this season, which, yes, the Chiefs had a lot of issues at the time of that game, but also they lost by 24 points. Like that score speaks for itself. And so clearly the Titans have proven that, like, since getting Derrick Henry, the Titans have proved that they can beat the Chiefs. They beat the Chiefs in the regular season the year they won the Super Bowl. And that was the full strength Chiefs. That was the dominant team. So they've proven that they can do it. And I think they're very capable of doing it again.
They proved that they could do it they did play each other in the 2019 playoff, and the Chiefs didn't shut down Derrick Henry, but they still won by a considerable amount of points. I just like to get that out there first off. And then also talking about it, you said that, the Titans have beat the Chiefs the last couple of times. I don't just think that's a valid argument. The Chiefs, I mean, it is a valid argument. You can make that, but personally, I don't think that has anything to do with what's going to happen in this game. The Chiefs are a completely different team than they were when the Titans were playing them those last times. Teams figured out the Chiefs. After that Buccaneers Super Bowl, the Chiefs haven't been the same team that they were, in 2020 and before. They've, taken less deep shots down the field. They've been kind of relying on their defensive play and on, short passes. The running game has been more crucial. Darrell Williams has been involved a lot. They've just been going at it a different offensive approach. And I don't think that the Tennessee Titans are equipped to stop the Chiefs with, what they're doing right now. I would just like to say quickly, the Titans in recent weeks, they lost to New England in week 12. It was a beatdown.
Yeah.
They lost to Pittsburgh in week 15. Their offense looked awful. And, they've had some very close games this year. They lost to Houston week 11. They lost to the Jets in week 4. And like I said, they've had some other close games this year.
Are you noticing the common denominator for most of these losses?
Yeah, Derrick Henry wasn't in the game. But I want to say, I mean, that's just my one worry with the Titans is I don't even think with Derrick Henry, I don't think they're the best team even with Derrick Henry. And all it really takes is them just at least managing the run. You don't even need to stop him. But if you can manage it so, he doesn't have a crazy monster game, I can't see him beating the Chiefs. I can't see them beating the Bengals if the Bengals are hot. I can't see them beating the Bills if Josh Allen's playing at 100%. I really can't. So I personally think, a superstar quarterback like Patty, like Josh Allen, like, Joe Burrow at his best when he's consistent. I think superstar quarterbacks are going to take down the Titans any day of the week if they're playing at their best. And
that's the crazy thing about this year's playoff bracket. I can genuinely see every team beating every team for the most part. Like the Eagles can't really beat anyone outside of, the wild card teams. Like once they get past the wild card round, if they win, they're not going to win any more games. But like you said, I could see any of those AFC teams besides the Steelers beating the Chiefs or the Titans because, we've seen it happen. Well, maybe not the Raiders versus the Chiefs this year, but in the past we've seen that happen. But like the teams that are actually like top 4 seeds and top 5 seeds, that I can see them beat anyone and make it all the way to the conference championship, at least on the AFC side. So it wouldn't shock me to see the Titans make the Super Bowl, but it also wouldn't shock me to see them lose to the Bengals if the Bengals get hot in the first game. So I do see your points, but I'm going to bet that the Titans are going to put it all together with Derrick Henry back and make a deep run.
I mean, it is possible. I do understand what you're saying. I just personally think that Derrick Henry isn't enough to get past another superstar team in the AFC Championship game, if that's what it comes down to. And I don't think Ryan Tannehill is that amazing of a quarterback.
Neither
So
do I.
that's just my opinion. But yeah, let's talk about some other games. I thought it was interesting that you have the Niners going so far. I personally think Garoppolo is going to fold like a lawn chair, and I think they're going to get destroyed by Dallas in the wild card. Yeah, you talked about Debo. That connection's great. The Niners definitely do have a good team going, but I really don't know how you have them beating Dallas. Maybe explain that a little bit to me.
Dallas to me just seems like a team that is going to completely collapse in the playoffs. You saw it again, like bias again, but you saw it against the Eagles. They were like kind of keeping up with the Eagles' backups in week 18 when they were trying to secure the division and play for a higher seed. And then it was a close game in the first half until the Eagles punter punted a 20-yard punt that gave them a free 7 points. It was a one-score game against the Eagles' backups and third stringers. Their starters just don't feel like they can really keep up in the playoffs. I don't think that the Dallas defense and offense are just that incredible as their record suggests. And I think the Niners have more of the playoff mentality. They've been there like more recently than Dallas. And the Niners just feel like, I don't know, they have it more than more than Dallas has it. Like it's completely arbitrary, but it's the feeling I get.
Yeah, I know you're a big Niners fan, or not fan, but you like them a lot. I don't share that same, liking in them. I don't know. I just don't see it personally. And, as an Eagles fan, I'm just going to say, I think the Cowboys have a really good roster. Recently, they haven't been playing up to the standard that they should be. At least Dak hasn't. In my opinion, Dak has been a very average quarterback. He's in a great situation and his stats look great, but recently he hasn't been playing super great. And, he needed that week 18 against the Eagles to kind of get back on track, have a good game against, second stringers. But what it comes down to is I think Dallas has their best defense that they've had in 15, 20 years. This defense is incredible. And
is it?
I think that alone, first off, is going to get them past the Niners. I think Dallas defense is too overpowering for the Niners offense, in my opinion. But also once, if Zeke is healthy, if Pollard, I don't know the reports on Zeke and Pollard. I know that they're both going to try to play. Zeke's definitely going to play, but Pollard may not play depending on how bad his injury is. They're going to see if they could get both of those guys back, get CeeDee Lamb, get Amari Cooper going. You really can't stop this Cowboys team. If everyone's playing to the best of their potential, the Cowboys could easily make the Super Bowl as an Eagles fan.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Dallas.
How is there no way?
You look at Dallas's schedule since their bye, which was week 7. They've beat one real team essentially. No. They have not beat a real team. They played New Orleans that was all injured, and they beat them 27-17. And then the only real team they played after that was they lost to Kansas City, they lost to the Raiders, they lost to Arizona. That's 3 playoff teams. The only really good win that they have all year over a good team is at New England in overtime, which I will give them that. That was a signature victory for the team. That was really unfortunate to watch as an Eagles fan, but since the bye, they beat Minnesota, they beat Atlanta, they beat New Orleans, they beat Washington and New York and Washington again, and then the Eagles backups. That's no teams. It's like the Eagles. They haven't beat anybody.
I do want to point out, they played awful versus the Cardinals. If they played like they usually do, they would have beaten the Cardinals that game.
The Cardinals didn't play well either, though.
No, but the Cowboys played much worse, and they only lost by 3 points. You look at the Tampa Bay game, week 1. Cowboys honestly played a little bit better than the Bucs. The Bucs got a little lucky towards the end.
Yeah, I thought Dallas should have won that game.
And now you look at the Bucs roster right now with all the injuries. Dallas was on par with the Bucs beginning of the season, and they've been playing pretty much that well for the duration of the season. Like you said, they have lost to some good teams, and they have been a little inconsistent this year. I'm not going to lie about that. But I'm talking about at their best. I don't think they're an easy team to beat at all. I think the Packers.
I agree with you there, but I just don't have any faith in their ability to play their best in this game.
They're going to be fighting.
They haven't played their best since week 5.
They've played pretty good against bad teams, and they haven't played too many great teams. Like you said, the last good team they really played was Kansas City, and that game was weird. Dallas played awful. Just a lot went wrong that game, but Kansas City's defense looked great. Dallas couldn't get anything going, and ultimately they lost. but I don't know. I don't think we've seen them play enough good teams recently to say that they haven't played good, because they've been great against these bad teams. And, earlier in the season, they were great against Tampa Bay. So I wouldn't discount them. That's just all I'm saying.
Earlier in the season is September, though. That was literally the first game of the season.
Yeah, but their guys are going to be well rested, healthy. At least Tony Pollard and Zeke are going to be, healthy, ready to go. The receivers haven't had too much action in recent weeks. I think their whole team's going to be ready to go for the most part. So, no, they're going to be at full strength. Yeah, I just don't see them losing that game, but that's my opinion. Yeah, do you have anything you want to talk about from my bracket? Any games you want to go through?
I don't think you said anything too outrageous besides the Rams making the Super Bowl, or did you say that, or did you say they're making you said they're making the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're making the Super Bowl.
That's ridiculous. Matt Stafford is going to fold. I've said it many weeks. He folded against the Niners like I said he would. I'm just waiting for it to happen against the Cardinals. I could very easily see the Rams beating the Cardinals, and then also maybe like if the Rams beat the Cardinals in a close game, that's going to be a close game no matter what, in my opinion. Then the way my bracket shakes up, it's the Niners versus the Rams again for the third time this season. The Niners typically beat the Rams, but again, it's going to be a very close game, and I think ultimately I can easily see the Rams beating the Niners that game too. So I could there's an easy path for the Niners, or not the Niners, the Rams to make the NFC Championship game. Not easy, but very, very plausible path for them to make the NFC Championship game. But I just don't have the confidence in Matt Stafford to lead them to those playoff wins. I don't think that he has the it factor that I'm talking about again in the big moments to lead them to the NFC Championship game, at least not 2 games in a row.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Stafford
against divisional opponents both times. Let's not forget.
Stafford hasn't looked good in big moments throughout his career. You can make an argument in my case that he's played on the Lions. So for majority of his career, this is the first year we're seeing him not on the Lions. But also he has had some big games with the Rams, and he's also folded in a couple of them. So
it's not about
I'll give you
performance. It's you see him just do these idiotic things. I want to be nice here, but you see him have it was against the Rams. No, not against the Rams. It was against the Ravens, I want to say, that he had, it was a 3rd and 8, 9-ish. And he had a wide open guy on a crosser that would have had the first down easily. Instead, he chucks it up down the field in the double coverage. That's an easy pick. I feel like he does that at least once a game where he just makes this stupid throw where he just throws it as hard as he can downfield in the double triple coverage, and it's a pick. And it's just, I don't know that you can get away with doing that every game. Not every game, as frequently as he does. I don't know that you could get away with that and still make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I
don't think you can.
Part of them making the Super Bowl is McVay has made it there before. He made it there with Jared Goff. He made it there with another elite defense like they have right now. I think Matt Stafford is a much better quarterback than Jared Goff. That's not even a debate. He's much better. And Jared Goff was much more mistake prone, in my opinion. Matt Stafford is very mistake prone, but Matt Stafford's a better quarterback than Jared Goff. So ultimately, I think McVay is going to coach and Matt Stafford to play it safe, especially versus the Cardinals. I think, he's not going to be taking as many of those deep shots. They're really going to, try to do some short passes, run the ball with Sony Michel. Cam Akers is healthy. Cam Akers is going to be back. Run the ball with Cam Akers and, get the ball to Cooper Kupp, intermediate down the field, maybe a couple shots with OBJ. But I don't think they're going to do anything too crazy. And that defense ultimately, in my opinion, is the reason why I have them going so far. You're talking about Stafford folding in big games, and, the Packers fold in big games. I'm not talking about Rodgers, but, the Packers fold in big games. I just want to say that, everyone
lose in the NFC Championship a lot.
Yeah. And, ultimately people are like, well, Rodgers was great. And yeah, Rodgers always plays good. He's maybe, this is a debate, but he's arguably one of the best quarterbacks. I would say top 3 quarterback in NFL history. That's just my opinion.
What?
That's just my opinion. But
no.
Aaron Rodgers is the top 3 quarterback in NFL history. He is. And if he had more rings, most people would probably have him number 1, in my opinion. So he's that good. So I just want to say that. But Aaron Rodgers consistently goes against worse teams in the NFC championship game, and he keeps losing. And I do like what the Packers are doing right now. As a team, I think they have one of the strongest teams they've had in years. The defense looks pretty good, but I don't think they're ready to take that step and make the Super Bowl again. They've only done it once with Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. And, when you get to strong teams like the Rams, the Cowboys, potentially the Bucks, the Niners.
Either of those teams a strong team.
They are strong teams.
I don't consider either one of those teams on the level of the Packers.
They haven't been as consistent as the Packers.
Like, I don't want to say stomp the Rams, but the Packers did not have a problem with the Rams. That game, at the end, it was only a 1-score game, but it was mainly garbage time where the Rams, got all their points with like 3 minutes left, I think it was. No, at the end of the third quarter, it was 36-17 Green Bay. And a lot of the Rams points at the end was just garbage time. And so I just don't see the Rams having the firepower not the firepower, but I just don't see we've seen them in their best form, and we've seen them play Green Bay. And that was like earlier in the season when it's not going to be negative 50 degrees in Green Bay. And that's a California team. You got to keep that in mind. So I just don't see the Rams beating Green Bay in Green Bay. In January. Or that might be February by then.
It would probably be February. But I just want to say, in general, too, this is one thing. People use it as an example, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit. People generally look at, regular season games when they're talking about the playoffs. Like, this happened when these teams played each other in the regular season. And I just want to say the playoff is a whole different thing. We saw it last year. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the regular season were a pretty good team. They didn't even win their division, though. They were pretty good. And in the playoffs, their defense just got everything together. Brady, the game plan with Arians was to, pass the ball, nothing too crazy, just get the ball to his receivers, 5-10-yard dump offs. And the Bucks were pretty much unstoppable in the playoffs. And I just want to say teams are going to totally switch up what they do in the playoffs. You're talking about how no team is quite as strong as the Packers in the regular season. I agree. But, we saw what the Bengals did at the end of the season. They got hot. And ultimately, the playoffs, whichever team gets hot is the team that's going to be making it far. Right. So I don't think we can depend on the Packers staying and playing like that team against, these other teams.
The thing is,
if any of them get hot, I don't think that, even if you're the 1 seed with arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, I don't think that's enough to potentially beat one of these teams with all these superstars if they get hot.
I'm saying, though, I think you can depend on the Packers to stay consistent because they have Aaron Rodgers. They don't have some young dude like Joe Burrow who's prone to inconsistency. They have Aaron Rodgers, the MVP of the league, back-to-back Super Bowl champion. Now, there is the condition that they do seem to fold every year in the playoffs or in the NFC Championship game specifically. So off the top of my head, I can think of 4 that they've lost in the last decade.
Yeah.
It was against Seattle, San Francisco, Atlanta. Okay, so 3 off the top of my head. And Tampa last year.
Yep, and Tampa.
So 4. And although you have to consider in that Tampa game last year, Green Bay was 30-something degrees. So the advantage really wasn't there weather-wise. But I digress. And so I think that the Packers can be depended on to beat teams like, the Eagles and then after that, the Rams, who are heavily mistake prone. So I see the Packers as the best team in the league.
I would agree. Right now, I think they're the best team in the league, but I know you said young quarterbacks like Joe Burrow who are inconsistent. I mean, you look, there's Tom Brady, there's Dak Prescott, there's Matt Stafford. Those guys are inconsistent. They do have a lot of mistakes, not Brady, but Prescott and, Stafford do have a lot of mistakes, but those aren't young guys. Both of them have experience. I think it really comes down to, can the Packers defense keep up and stop these other teams' offenses? I think Rodgers will bring his A game, but that's the biggest question, in my opinion, for the NFC. And yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I think everybody has the Packers as the Super Bowl besides me. So we'll have to see if that holds true. I think I'm in the minority there, but I think most people do have the Chiefs or the Titans in the Super Bowl in the AFC. So I think we both have a pretty common opinion. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Those are our playoff predictions. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on there. We'll be back next week to kind of go over what happened in the wild card. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of craziness. I mean, imagine Big Ben just pulls off the biggest upset ever against the Chiefs. That would be ridiculous. But yeah,
I can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine.
I can't. But I said the same thing about Jacksonville last week, and look what happened. So,
well, no. Patrick Mahomes is not Carson Wentz.
Patrick Mahomes isn't Carson Wentz. I'm just saying, crazy things happen sometimes. You never know. Playoff football, baby. You never know. But I'm excited. I think you're excited too, Alex. It was a good episode. And yeah, like I said, we'll see you next week with more craziness going on. And we'll be sure to talk about the divisional round, what we think is going to happen there, and some of our predictions for the future.
Everything I said in this episode was a lie. The Eagles are winning the Super Bowl.
That too. Go Birds. #1, baby. But anyway, yeah. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Bye-bye.